But we're going to start with the playoff scenarios for each and every team, and then we're going to close this out with touchdown predictions and that start and sit. So let's just go game by game. First of all, Baltimore in the AFC has clinched the first round bye, so they're going to be resting their starters. That's going to be an interesting one, especially in daily fantasy, because I'm going to be playing some RG3 and Gus Edwards this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Houston Texans have clinched. The Kansas City Chiefs have clinched. The New England Patriots have clinched. And the Buffalo Bills have clinched. Now, the New England Patriots, they clinched first round bye with a win or a Kansas City tie. Kansas City, on the other hand, clinches a first round bye with a win and a New England loss. So both of those teams are going to be very interested in winning their games. New England is playing Miami, and Kansas City is playing the LA Chargers this week, both at the same time, the early games this week on Sunday. Raiders are one of the more interesting ones. First of all, Tennessee is a win and they're in at that 6th seed. Now, if they tie, then they can still get in with a Pittsburgh loss or a Pittsburgh loss and an Indianapolis loss or tie. So Indianapolis, that game actually does have some playoff implications, not for Indianapolis directly, but for some playoff tiebreaker scenarios. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they win and Tennessee loses, they can get in. Now, if they tie, Tennessee loses, they get in, blah, blah, blah. Now, if they lose, it kind of gets weird. Tennessee has to lose, Indianapolis has to win, Oakland has to lose. Or Tennessee loses, Indianapolis wins, Pittsburgh ties, and Oakland in the strength of schedule tiebreaker. So basically, if Pittsburgh loses and Tennessee loses and Indianapolis wins, Oakland wins, then it comes down to a weird tiebreaker. Pittsburgh would need either the Minnesota Vikings, all of these teams to win. Minnesota over Chicago, which is doable. Green Bay over Detroit, which is certainly doable. Kansas City over the Chargers, which is doable. But Miami has to beat New England. I don't see that happening. So let's just assume that Pittsburgh needs either Oakland and Tennessee to lose with an Indianapolis win, or they just need to win with Tennessee to lose. That's the easiest way in for them. Oakland, if they get in, equally as weird to Pittsburgh. Okay, so if Oakland wins and Pittsburgh loses and Tennessee loses and Indianapolis wins, Oakland will then get in if they get the strength of schedule victory. So again, let me clear this up for Oakland. Oakland win. Pittsburgh loss, Tennessee loss, Indianapolis wins. So this week, Oakland is a huge fan of the Baltimore Ravens, the Houston Texans, and the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. Now, that doesn't get them in by themselves. One of the following has to happen. Chicago has to beat Minnesota. Probably not going to happen, but certainly a chance. You have Detroit beating Green Bay. That's not going to happen. The Chargers beating Kansas City, a chance, but I don't think that's going to happen. But New England will beat Miami, mark my words. So again, if Oakland wins, Pittsburgh loses, Tennessee loses, and Indianapolis wins, Oakland's in the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen, though. But that is basically the AFC. I think the likely scenario is that Tennessee is going to take care of business against a Houston team that's going to be resting some starters, but we'll see how that goes. The NFC is pretty well decided. Obviously, Philadelphia controls their own destiny in the NFC East. If they win, they're in. If they lose, Dallas can get in with a Philly loss and a win over the Redskins. Or I guess if Philly wins, Dallas can lose or tie. All these tie situations. Let's just assume there are no ties in football this week, just to keep this thing clean. Green Bay Packers, a lot of scenarios for them. So they clinch a first-round bye with a win, the easiest way, a win over Detroit. I think that'll happen. If they lose, they can still get a first-round bye if New Orleans loses, or if San Francisco loses, or, depending on what happens, basically, again, that Saints game. Now, they can clinch home field advantage throughout the NFC, so basically the 1 seed if they win and San Francisco loses, or if they tie and San Francisco loses and then New Orleans loses or ties as well. So basically, if they win and San Francisco lose, they're the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Now, going to New Orleans, who are at present, at the time of this recording, the number 3 seed at 12-3. They clinch a first-round bye if they win with a Green Bay loss. They clinch a first-round bye with a win and a San Francisco loss. They clinch a first-round bye if San Francisco loses and Green Bay wins, regardless of their loss there. Now they clinch home field advantage with a win plus a Green Bay loss plus a San Francisco loss. So if they win and Green Bay and San Francisco both lose, they move from number 3 to number 1 in the conference. Now, this is where it kind of gets fun here because San Francisco, they clinched the NFC West with a win, obviously, over Seattle. They can clinch a first-round bye with a win or a tie and losses by Green Bay and New Orleans. They clinch first the number 1 seed, home field advantage throughout the playoffs with a win or a tie with a Green Bay and New Orleans loss. And then Seattle, most interestingly, at the time of this recording, they're the 5th seed in the playoffs. They can still jump all the way to number 1, but let me give you the scenarios. First of all, they win the division. They have to win to win the division over San Francisco. If they can clinch a first-round bye with a win and a Green Bay loss, they can clinch home field advantage if they win and Green Bay and New Orleans both lose. So obviously, if they win, they beat San Francisco, so they take the loss. If Green Bay loses to Detroit and New Orleans loses to, I forgot who they're, Carolina, which I don't think will happen, I think they'll get it done. So there you go. There are the playoff scenarios. But let's go into